type any sentence into Google Translate, any language pair, get a fluent, mostly correct answer in half a second. This works so well that we forget it was one of the oldest and hardest problems in the entire field. 75 years of research, 3 completely different paradigms, and it still isn't solved. Not really, not for the languages that need it most. Welcome to Lecture 9, 10 videos on real-world NLP. This is the lecture where every abstract idea from the last 8 lectures, tokenization, embeddings, attention, LLMs, meets an actual user with an actual problem, machine translation, search, question answering, sentiment, writing help, simplification, medicine, applications, not architectures. This is the payoff. Lecture 8 closed with LLMs, massive transformer stacks trained on the whole internet, capable of a suspicious amount of general behavior. Great. But suspicious general behavior is not a product. A product solves a specific problem for a specific user, which is exactly what this lecture is about. The puzzle for today. Machine translation looks solved. Fluent output, instant, free. If you speak English, French, Spanish, Chinese, or Japanese, it basically works. But sit with a low-resource language speaker for 10 minutes. Bemba, Wolof, Kinyarwanda. It's a totally different story. Why the huge gap? Why does the same technology work so well for some languages and so badly for others? Today's 3 beats. First, the 3 eras of MT. Rule-based, statistical, neural. What each one got right, what each one got wrong. The whole story in one arc. Second, what modern MT actually does under the hood. Transformer sequence to sequence, attention across languages, and what LLMs changed. Third, the still open problems. Low-resource languages, domain shift, cultural nuance, idioms, the stuff nobody in a demo ever shows you. Beat 1. Era 1. Rule-based MT, 1950s through 1980s. The idea, write down the grammar of both languages, plus a bilingual dictionary, and translate by parsing the source and regenerating the target. Sounds elegant. In practice, a nightmare. Every idiom, every ambiguous word, every grammatical exception needed a hand-coded rule. Systems were brittle, vocabularies were tiny, and nobody could agree on the right level of representation. Words, phrases, syntax trees, semantic graphs. Era 2. Statistical MT, 1990s through mid-2010s. IBM in the 1990s. Brown, Della Pietra, and colleagues. The insight: stop writing rules. Give me a huge parallel corpus, English and French side by side, and I will learn which English phrases translate to which French phrases, plus how likely each translation is. Word alignment, phrase tables, language models. Assemble the pieces at runtime and pick the highest probability French sentence. Era 3. Neural MT. Kicks off around 2014 with Bahdanau, Cho, and Bengio, the attention paper we mentioned back in Lecture 6. Instead of chunking phrases and stitching them together, an encoder reads the entire source sentence into a set of vectors. A decoder generates the target sentence one word at a time, attending to whichever source vectors matter. Everything is one differentiable model, trained end-to-end, and by 2016 Google switched production translate over to it. Beat 2. What modern MT actually is. Under the hood, a transformer encoder reads the source. A transformer decoder writes the target, one subword at a time, using cross-attention to look back at the source at every step. The vocabulary is BPE, the tokenization scheme we covered in Lecture 3. Same model, same shape, whether you're translating English to French or Swahili to Portuguese. That is a massive change from the rule-based era, where every language pair was its own project. Then LLMs happened. And it turned out, if you train a giant decoder on enough multilingual text, translation just falls out. You don't even need a dedicated MT model. Prompt GPT-4 or Claude with and translate this into French. Get an output that beats dedicated 2019 NMT systems on most quality metrics, especially for high-resource languages, especially for context-heavy passages where you need to remember what was said 3 paragraphs ago. How do we know the output is good? This has its own subfield, MT evaluation. BLEU score from Papineni 2002 at IBM. Compare the machine translation to one or more human reference translations. Count matching n-grams. It has known flaws. It rewards surface overlap, punishes valid paraphrases. Newer metrics like COMET use a learned neural model to score fluency and adequacy. And human evaluation is still the gold standard for anything that actually matters. Beat 3. The still open frontier. Problem 1. Low resource languages. Modern MT is trained on parallel data, millions of sentence pairs. For English-French, we have hundreds of millions. For Kinyarwanda English, we have thousands. And the quality reflects that gap. Half the world's languages are effectively unserved by the same technology that translates business emails perfectly. Problem 2. Domain shift. A model trained on news articles and Wikipedia is really good at news and Wikipedia. Ask it to translate a medical report, a legal contract, a maintenance manual for aircraft engines. Fluency stays high. Accuracy drops off a cliff. The vocabulary is different. The conventions are different. And a fluent-sounding wrong translation of a dosage instruction is worse than a stumbling correct one. Problem 3. Cultural nuance. Machine translation handles words. Culture handles what those words are doing. Politeness levels in Japanese and Korean. Grammatical gender in Spanish for someone whose gender the source didn't specify. Idioms whose literal translation makes no sense. Humor, sarcasm, poetry, the stuff that makes translation an art. This is where the frontier is, and it's the reason we still need human translators, which is exactly what Video 2 is about. 3 takeaways before the quiz. 1. 3 eras. Rule-based, statistical, neural, each learned from the failures of the last. Modern MT is a transformer encoder-decoder with cross-attention, or an LLM being prompted to translate. Same core mechanism either way. 2. It works spectacularly well for the roughly 20 languages with mountains of parallel data. For the other 7,000 languages on Earth, it works poorly to not at all. The gap is data, not architecture. 3. The frontier is low-resource languages, domain shift, and cultural nuance. Fluent-sounding wrong translations are the danger zone, and human translators aren't going anywhere, which is Video 2. Quiz 1. What was the core insight of statistical machine translation, SMT? A bigger dictionaries make better translation. B. Learn phrase-to-phrase mappings and their probabilities from a large parallel corpus. Then pick the highest probability target sentence. C. Translate one word at a time using a rule-based grammar. Or D. Use one giant neural network for every language pair. B. Brown et al., 1993, at IBM. The whole revolution was replacing handwritten rules with probabilities learned from parallel text. That approach dominated MT from the mid-1990s to about 2016. Then neural sequence-to-sequence with attention took over. Quiz 2. What piece of the modern neural MT architecture handles the look back at the source step during generation? A. A rule-based dictionary lookup. B. Cross-attention between the decoder and the encoder outputs. C. A separate part of speech tagger. Or D. A hidden Markov model. B. Cross-attention. At every decoder step, the decoder attends over the encoder's source-side vectors and pulls in whichever ones matter for the next target token. Bahdanau, Cho, and Bengio introduced attention for MT in 2014. The transformer generalized it in 2017. Quiz 3. Why does modern MT work well for English-French but poorly for Kinyarwanda English? A Kinyarwanda is grammatically harder for neural networks to represent. B. The architecture is different for African languages. C. The gap is training data, hundreds of millions of English-French sentence pairs versus 100,000 or fewer for Kinyarwanda English. Or D. LLMs refuse to translate low-resource languages. C. Same architecture, wildly different amounts of parallel data. This is the single biggest reason MT quality is uneven across the world's languages. It is also where the current research frontier lives. How to train useful MT from tiny amounts of data. Back to the puzzle. Why does the same MT technology work great for some languages and badly for others? Data, just data. Everything else is a rounding error. Lecture 9 is the tour of applications, 10 of them. Each one shows what the field can actually deliver right now and where the sharp edges still are. Next video, the human side. What a professional translator's day looks like when the machine is doing half the work. Next time, inside a professional translator's workflow, CAT tools, translation memory, post-editing machine output, how the human-machine partnership actually works in the industry that pays translators rent. Hit subscribe.